At DePaco Credit Union, we value your health and happiness as much as your financial well-being. We encourage the volunteer spirit by providing DePaco employees with the tools and resources to help grow our communities and support the causes that matter to us. We believe that giving back not only strengthens the places we call home, but also enhances our overall well-being. Well-being is the key to a life worth loving. So when you think about yours, remember that DePaco can help you be well.
All things Hawkeyes. Your all-access pass from the sidelines to the postgame. Iowa's News Now Sports presents Eye on the Hawks. Sponsored by DePaco Community Credit Union and Pin Seekers.
I think the past 10 seasons we've won nine of the games. So if you want to win football games, come here, and whatever happens there, happens there.
And that's how a rivalry week starts. Iowa and Nebraska renew a friendly rivalry, maybe at times, but certainly not
friends shake
the
their
week
hands.
of Black Friday. Yeah, friends shake hands. But boy, that's not what happened last year at Kinnick as you relive a chase for those handshakes at the end of it. Drew Stevens walking them off, and what a big play by Max Llewellyn. And here we are yet again heading to Lincoln for the Heroes game. Welcome to a little early edition to Eye on the Hawks. Thankful to have you here this week of Thanksgiving. Mitch Fick and Mike Howell with Director Erica running the show here on a Tuesday night, getting this out early for you as you hit the road to wherever you may be celebrating the holiday. We'll hear more from Logan Jones later. He is our Hawkeye highlight going into his 50th career start, a kid from Council Bluffs who grew up maybe hoping to wear the Husker red a little bit. Some interesting insight into his road to Iowa City from closer to Lincoln than most other Hawkeye recruits. We'll also get a little look at the numbers for the Huskers coming in with the same 7-4 record as the Hawkeyes are and how they're ticking with TJ their new starting quarterback filling in for Dylan Raiola, and lots of other attacks that Nebraska can bring heading into that Hawkeye defense. But we'll tee things up before we tee things up, got to get those plugs in. Wherever you're listening or watching to the Eye on the Hawks podcast, we appreciate it. The Iowa's News Now YouTube channel, of course, we've got all of our pregame sound up there, about a half hour's worth out of Iowa City on this Tuesday. You can catch up with there as well. We've also got Owen's recap pack from the Michigan State game. If you didn't see that, some post-game coverage from there as well. And Rebecca's got a forecast up there if you are traveling in case you want to expand your horizons a little bit. Plenty to get to in there, but now we will tee things up courtesy of Pin Seekers, and of course you can search wherever you listen to podcasts, Eye on the Hawks. We are also there, but let's get into a little perspective of this Black Friday showdown. Zach Lutmer, Mark Gronowski, and Logan Jones, and Coach Kirk Ferentz breaking down what makes this rivalry a little more special from all of their vantage points.
It was a big one. For me, I was a Minnesota fan.
Sure.
So I grew up also hating Nebraska from a different point of view. But no, since getting here, I've understood that this rivalry is pretty big. And I've learned to not like these guys too. So, but no, it's just another game. Obviously another chance to compete out there. It's not any bigger than last week or anything. We got to be prepared. I'm sure they're going to be prepared, and it's going to be a fun game.
I remember watching the one 2 years ago with the 2 interceptions at the end of the game that Iowa ended up winning that one. I feel like every game has been close, at least in the past couple years. So it's always been a lot of fun. There's a lot of heated, bad blood between the teams. I'm looking forward to Saturday. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
I always hoped they would offer coming up, and there was a few visits, but they said I was too small to play there. So it is what it is. I'm beyond grateful they said that because I got to end up here, and they offered actually after I committed here, so that was kind of interesting. The day after I committed here. But yeah, it was an interesting thing for sure.
I mean, it just seems like every year this game is just back and forth and tough. There's one that got away that one year, I guess one here and one there, but for the most part, they just kind of, and we've had some crazy turns too, as you know. 2 years ago, I guess that would have been was maybe as wild of an ending or just unusual of an ending. But somehow, some way, that just, if you can get there and get it done, that's the goal.
And speaking of getting there and getting it done, it's certainly what happened last Saturday at Kinnick with Iowa coming back and getting one on Michigan State there. But you see the stats there if you're watching on YouTube. Iowa 9-1 in the last 10 against Nebraska. Of course, they had the home loss in 22 where Sam Laporta didn't play. Monty Pottebaum was out. Spencer Petras got hurt early. Cooper DeJean got hurt early. That was where we were first introduced to TJ Hall, and certainly has moved into a great role for him. Sounds like he is trending to hopefully contribute in some way on Friday in Lincoln, along with Hayden Large, who is such a huge part of the not just pass game as one of the best tight ends and one of the top tight ends for Iowa, but so pivotal in the run game. We'll talk a little bit more about hopefully some opportunities for Kamari Moulton and company coming up on Friday. But lots on the table and a lot of vantage points for this rivalry that's ended on walk-off field goals a lot of times these last few years, courtesy of Miguel Recinos and Keith Duncan and Marshall Meter and Drew Stevens. Mike, how do you feel about Iowa's 1-9 of 10, but everyone's so close, and this one's got a new quarterback for the Huskers, one of the best running backs in the country for them. How do you feel about this game, even as we've seen Iowa do really well against the teams that aren't ranked in the top 15 and been right there and have blown out everybody else? What's your take on this so far?
Yeah, you look at that. Obviously you watched every game, 9-1 in the last 10, but you kind of feel like that's kind of misleading a little bit.
4-6 so easily, right?
Right. So in the last 7 meetings alone, the games have been decided by an average of 4.6 points and no larger than 7. I think Iowa won a game by 7, Nebraska won a game by 7. So it's like they're always nail biters, at least recently. Now, if you go back 10 years, I think in 2015 they blew them out. Iowa blew Nebraska out, and but Iowa has dominated this rivalry, but it doesn't feel that way just because they're always so close. So going into this game, I expect another close matchup. I don't expect Iowa to dominate like they did against Minnesota, like they did against Wisconsin. So I think you expect a close game here.
The weird part, and this was like kind of the tail of the tape for that 2015 Hawkeye team, that was an 8-point win in Nebraska, but it just felt like Kanzeri just kept hitting haymakers. And Parker Hesse they had 4 interceptions. Parker Hesse had the pick of Tommy Armstrong. It was, I think,
must be thinking of a different game.
2017.
40-14.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And Noah Fant had the short pass from Stan. That was 56-14. Yes, Iowa scored 56 points with Brian Ferentz as offensive coordinator. People forget about 17 and how
was that the game
that game was.
Hesse scored a touchdown, or was that the one you just mentioned, the 2017?
2015 was the one. He was a redshirt freshman, another walk-on from walk-on. If you're familiar with Mark Farley's lore up at Northern Iowa.
Oh, that's right. And then in 2016-10. So there were like a couple games in there where you kind of just took them to the woodshed.
That was we talked in our conversation earlier this year with Riley McCarron, talked about that senior day, the shrug with like the first emoji celebration in Hawkeye history. Akram Wadley had the one cut and gone, and Kittle had, I think, a couple scores in that one there at 2016 at Kinnick. But man, just going back and seeing some of those highlights making the round. The lack of handshakes, we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Last year against Kinnick certainly became a big thing. It's just it's always an interesting matchup. This Nebraska team, Emmett Johnson somehow isn't a Doak Walker finalist. Congratulations.
Really? I didn't know that.
Isn't that nuts?
That's crazy.
He's got 1,200 yards and 11 touchdowns, I think.
11's right, yeah, because I was comparing it to Caleb Johnson's year, and Caleb obviously played 12 games, and Emmett's through 11 year. So far, and 11 touchdowns, 1,234 yards.
He's terrifying. He's been so good for so long.
The quarterback, TJ Lateef, you think, this game is so weird too. Like you mentioned the close, it almost always has a backup quarterback or 2 backup quarterbacks in, because Iowa, you think the last few years, last year Jackson Stratton started for Iowa, Deacon Hill the previous year. And I think Petrus started 22, but he got knocked out early.
22, got knocked out.
Padilla
missed an entire year, and Alex Padilla came in. The year before Padilla started, Petrus came in the second half and ended up leading the comeback there.
Yeah, and likewise, Nebraska's had a lot of backup quarterbacks too. I mean, I know Brock Purdy's brother, is it Chuba?
Chuba, yeah. Purdy
played last year, but he didn't.
It was 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah, that's right, 2 years ago. Dylan Raiola did play last year, but then I think something I was reading a tweet, a Nebraska fan yesterday, like
Casey Thompson started. He was the starter. He started in 22. 21 was
4 of the last 6. They've had a backup play.
And I always had a backup, and I think Chad Leistico had this stat. This week 1 starter at quarterback for Iowa has only played 3 of the last 16 quarters against Nebraska, which it's
another wrinkle in the rivalry.
There's just so many different things, and again, with Cooper getting knocked out in 22, so TJ gets thrown in as a true or a redshirt freshman. Took some knocks that are well documented, has turned into now one of the best corners in the Big Ten. Hopefully, again, he can play in some capacity. But yeah, it's the 12th game of the season in the Big Ten, no matter what the Big Ten looks like, divisions or no divisions, like guys are banged up, they're playing through pain, and that's just, it's almost perfect to have the two border schools play on Black Friday, and they're not the only game in town on Friday. I think Texas and Texas A&M play on Friday as well, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's still like all eyes on the Heartland. It's exactly what you'd want, and you've got guys that are just pushing through everything, and it's going to be interesting to see how a kid from California plays in his first home start. He's Lateef has been.
Oh, that's right. They played at UCLA and then
UCLA,
at Penn State.
And at Penn State. So a lot of travel there, a lot of miles put on by the Huskers. But
he's played really well too. I mean, last week
impressive.
they got kind of blown out, but they marched right down the field in that first drive, and they got stuffed on 4th and 1 at like the 2 or whatever. And if they punch that in, I think it's a little bit different game. I still think Penn State played really well, but Emmett Johnson was running all over the field. They couldn't really punch it in.
That wheel route he's run the last few times scares the hell out of me.
That makes me think, could he play the Caleb Johnson role last year in this game? Both Johnsons.
Somebody's got to. It can't be a coincidence.
He's 4th in the country in rushing yards and there too last year, so it just seems like that's a little bit of role reversal for each team.
Yeah, and he leads in carries too, so he's a workhorse. 222 carries, I believe, through 11 games. That's the most of, I believe, anybody in the Big Ten, maybe anybody in the nation.
Friday's a stacked game. You're right.
It's fun.
The Ole Miss, Mississippi State. I almost forgot what they call that. The Egg Bowl.
Yeah, Apple Cup is Washington.
Yeah, I almost said Apple Cup. Georgia Tech, Georgia, which was an amazing game last year. I don't really think it's going to be that good. Old Oak and Bucket, Indiana, Purdue. That's not going to be a game. Texas A&M, Texas, and then Arizona State.
Those are all Friday?
Those are all Friday.
Oh, shoot.
Those are all just the ranked games. Iowa wasn't even included there.
Jeez. By the way, you can watch Iowa, Nebraska on CBS too. There we go, and we'll have. That is Mike doing this. That sounded exactly like the actual recording. Well done. And we only have a 6 and 10 o'clock newscast, I believe, Friday night, but we'll have post game from Lincoln there for you if you keep it on CBS too as you flip around. But we've talked a little bit about Emmett Johnson, which kind of makes the Nebraska by the numbers here a little surprising. Thanks to Pin Seekers for helping teeing it up for us here on this Tuesday. But you see the numbers; they're only the 87th rushing team in the country, but I think Emmett Johnson averages 21 by himself, so he is doing a lot of the work there on the ground. Scoring offense is in the top 50, total offense a little below middle of the pack. The defense can be where they make their hay. Second-ranked pass defense in the nation. Not crazy turnover numbers. I think they only have 5 or 6 picks, but
6 picks.
Less than 140 yards allowed through the air, which for an Iowa team that's still trying to get some consistency, hitting big plays, just maybe not as much as you would hope for. Still work to be done there, and going up against a really good pass defense, a rush defense that has looked a little porous. And, of course, I forgot my notebook out in the newsroom with all my notes that I wrote down about what these less than stellar rush attacks have done against the Husker defense. But let's just say teams that aren't that great at running the ball are running the ball pretty well against the Huskers. Let's hear from Lutmer and Gronowski just about what they're seeing on tape so far from both sides of the ball.
He really likes to get out of the pocket, roll out to his right, move the pocket for him, quick short throws. Obviously, they want to get the ball to 21, the running back. He's a playmaker. Obviously leads the Big Ten in rushing. So we got to be keyed in on him, and the receivers like to block too. They're physical guys, so we got to be prepared, get off blocks, and obviously we got to be prepared for the pass too. But main thing is stopping the run first and then adjust to the pass later on.
They get hands-on a lot, and that's one of the big things for them is they're playing a lot of man coverage, so they're trying to be aggressive, and sometimes they end up getting some penalties out there, but that's what happens when you're mostly a man team trying to play aggressive, and they make it really hard on just receivers trying to make a play on the ball. And that's why they have been so successful in the pass game, and they sometimes try to confuse some things as for the quarterback. They try to bring some pressures, trying to heat you up so you got to get the ball out quick. And again, that also makes it easier because the receiver or the DBs don't have to guard as long. As many one-on-one shots we can get, especially going into this week, a team that loves to play a lot of cover one. We're going to try and take our shots when we can.
And Iowa, even though a lot of fans will tell you, and the players will tell you, and everybody will tell you that the pass game's not where they're hoping it could be, there have been more explosive plays. You've had Jacob Gill against Oregon. You've had the long one to Reese Vanderzee against Minnesota and a litany of other plays. Sam Phillips just had a 33-yarder. That was a pretty quiet play against Michigan State, even though it was a big one. And, of course, special teams. Nebraska's got a great special teams unit of their own, and Caden Weegan is doing anything and everything and looking to continue to build on his record-setting days as a Hawkeye with 2 more games left in his Hawkeye career. And you've got opportunities to maybe find success on the ground again against a Huskers defense that went and got my notebook during the sound bites there. Minnesota, the 128th ranked rush offense in the country this season, had 186 yards along with 71, so that's offset a little bit. Darius Taylor broke a big one against the Huskers in that one. Northwestern, 52nd, which is kind of around, along with USC, kind of in the same rankings area. Ran for 172, 202 for the Trojans. UCLA went for 157. They're ranked down in the 80s. And Penn State, who's 63rd in the nation in rush offense, had 231 yards against this Nebraska run defense. But again, it's a heck of a pass defense they have. So do you have more confidence in Iowa's running attack against the Huskers or more confidence in the Huskers' pass defense against an Iowa pass offense that has its moments and certainly did against the Spartans, but still looking for a full 4 quarters maybe?
Can you give me those options again? Did you say Iowa's rush defense?
Iowa's rush offense
okay,
against the Huskers' pass defense,
sure,
or the Huskers' pass defense against Iowa's pass offense? Which gives you more? Which would you have more confidence in?
I have more confidence in Iowa's rushing offense. I think they've been great all year, and great's probably too strong of a word. They've been great at times. They've been inconsistent at sometimes.
They haven't had the home run.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that in a little bit. But to not have a home run and still be where they are ranked and have the success they have, where they've got 2 guys that, again, if you take Gronowski's sacks out, he's got over 500 yards rushing. That's pretty good considering there's not a real home run ball.
Yeah, and the stats you just mentioned about Nebraska's rush defense, I think Iowa's going to be able to move the ball. You look at Nebraska's, passing defense, and you just kind of wonder if, in some of those games, like USC threw for 130 yards, but they rushed for like 200, like you said.
Maeva had a rough day at the office.
Yeah, exactly. So I just wonder, are teams trying to run the ball more? Maybe that takes away from their passing yardage. Who knows? Iowa's passing game has been super inconsistent. Last game against Michigan State was like a microcosm of it, right? Like through 3 quarters, it was awful. But then you see these plays where, Gill and Reese Vanderzee and Sam Phillips had these plays, and it's just like, why can't you just do that all the time? So I guess I would go with, Iowa's rush offense. I do think this game is going to come down to who's going to run the ball. Because obviously Nebraska wants to. They have a backup quarterback with Emma Johnson, and Iowa, of course, wants to as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what, Iowa historically, going back to the days of Dan Persa and Terrell Pryor, scrambling quarterbacks, and TJ Lateef can move around a little bit. Yeah. And you wonder if, can you use him going side to side to wear out the front 4, and then you start hitting with Emmett Johnson again and what that could do. Iowa's longest rush of the year is...
I probably should know this.
Mark Gronowski, 67 yards against Penn State. The
Moulton,
longest run by a running back for Iowa this year is still Xavier in that first game against Auburn.
It was like 35 yards?
Like 41 or 44. Since then, I've just going through the numbers in Big Ten play. Iowa's longest run by a running back in Big Ten play is Xavier Williams, 29 yards against Wisconsin. The second longest run for an Iowa running back in the Big Ten this year is
15 yards.
Nathan McNeil, 24 yards against Wisconsin. Kamari Moulton is friggin' due. He has been so close so many times. He's had a 21-yard run against Minnesota, had 22 against Indiana. He's had a pair of 16-yard runs against USC and MSU. We need Kamari to find the hole and have a big one. He's been right there. And again, that's why I'm so impressed by Iowa's rush attack, is that there hasn't been that Caleb Johnson, absolute haymaker. They're really good at getting those 10 to 15 to 20-yard runs. And again, it's more impressive that Kamari continues to average 5 yards a pop when his longest run of the year is 22 yards. It really, really impresses me. And this is your opportunity against a team that gave up a bunch of plays to Katron Allen, gave up 71 yards to Darius Taylor. Jaden Mayava ran all over him in a day where he wasn't throwing the ball. He found a lot of success on the ground. This is the game where Kamari Moulton can really put his foot in the ground, literally and figuratively, and bust a big one. Somebody, I think, has to on this, whether it's Xavier getting some run. We talked to Jazz Patterson today. You can hear from him on the YouTube channel as well. I mean, that's a guy that this could be his type of game, too. A cold weather one in the trenches against an offensive line that sounds like it's getting healthier, better than they were last week. It felt like they were playing banged up. You hope Hayden Large can be back there to spring that open. This is a game where you got to hit some home runs on the ground, and I think this is the defense that you'd want to do it against.
Yeah, 100%. You know, those big explosive plays are what make a rushing offense team, like the offense, just a lot better to get those points, too, because, I mean, just take last week. You know, you mentioned it, too. If you take out some of the sacks, they averaged, what, like 5 yards a carry? Is that what you had?
They were up there, yeah. I mean, it's, you know, there was a lot of knocks about what it looked like. Obviously, it gets offset by an 8-yard loss by TJ Washington on a broken trick play. There were a couple other like 1-yard carries. I think Xavier had 2 carries for 2 yards. Caden had 1 for nothing. So you take those carries out and the sacks. Overall, it was a pretty solid day at the office, albeit just not what people were expecting. But again, you playing against an offensive line. Logan Jones, we didn't even talk about it on Saturday or on Sunday, left that game. He was banged up. Jennings was banged up on the bike. Bo was banged up. You know, Trevor Lauk just hoping and praying he stays healthy. All things considered, it was a valiant effort, and that's why you hope going into Lincoln a little healthier. Hopefully Hayden's back in some capacity that they can build on that.
Yeah, well, the point I was going to make was, you know, when you have even 5 yards of carry without those negative plays, you need those big plays. Otherwise, those negative plays will stop a drive in your territory. You have to punt. So it definitely hampers the amount of points you can score, and that's why like last year you look at the offense and while the numbers are kind of, you know, I don't know if they're similar, but like you'd say the rushing offense was 10 times better last year, even though like the rush per carry is still going to be pretty high this year with Kamari, even though and he hasn't broken any runs, and that's exactly why. So those home run balls will be key, and if they don't, then I expect it to be a little closer. You know, if you want to open up this game, I think it's going to be crucial that if Iowa comes out and scores early, because you don't want them playing from behind, and then you have to throw against a defense that's ranked second in the country. That'd be a tough order.
Yeah, you'd love to see, we talked about Kanzeri's game in Lincoln in 2015. You'd love to see one of those again where he just gets off the side, seal on the left, and scamper for 60 or so. Again, yeah, it's while that game felt so dominated by Iowa with the 4 picks, 2 long runs from Kanzeri, and it was still 28-20. That was just kind of a microcosm of the 2015 season. Felt dominant, but always, whether it was Minnesota or another team, I think that Maryland game was way closer than it felt, too. It was within, I think, a score or 2.
Yeah.
But hey, 12-0 is 12-0. You'll certainly take. He'll take 8-4 at this point because that's as best as you can be if you're the Hawkeyes. Well, we talked about Logan Jones. You heard from him off the top. You've already heard from him a little bit. You're going to hear some repeats in here, but a guy who is now one of 3 finalists for the Outland Trophy. What a prestigious award that could be. Brandon Scherf's won it. Robert Gallery and others in the past. I believe Alex Karras was a winner as well. The best interior offensive or defensive lineman in the country is awarded the Outland, and boy, you'd be tough-pressed to find a better center in the country. Certainly in the Big Ten, than Logan Jones, and what an opportunity he's got to win that. And a kid from Council Bluffs who came in as a defensive lineman. They gave him the old Linderbaum treatment. Hey, if you think you can play this, why don't you go ahead and flip over to center again? We'll see if we can get you going again there. And he's been really impressive, and we'll hear from Logan Jones here. He is our Hawkeye highlight heading into Nebraska. A little bit about his recruitment by the Huskers as well.
Was there any point in 22 or 23, whenever, of just like, can I go over back to the D-line room? Was there any point where you're just like, man, like, kind of want to get back there, or did you settle in pretty quick?
You know, I really loved O-line. You know, I played offensive line in high school, and honestly, I loved it, just the idea of finishing guys, taking them downfield. I've always loved that. And then there's perks to D-line too, getting sacks and all that. But, once I got into the O-line and the guys in there, that's the biggest thing. I love the guys in the D-line room when I was playing D-line. And, my best man is, Ethan Herkett, a D-lineman too. But the guys in the O-line room are special, man. They're all weirdos and just always on doing some stupid stuff, arguing. And it's awesome to be part of. You never know what you're going to walk into. And, you go into that room, the conversations being had, and to be able to be a part of that, I love it, and I'll forever cherish that room.
Sure. Everyone at KF started in January. You're just talking about how close this group was. Can you put your finger on the reason why this group above others is just so close-knit and so weird together, and things like that?
Yeah, I think everybody's just made it a priority, we want to win, and I think that's the common goal around here, and just in order to do that, you got to be together. And whether it was in January having meals together, going out to eat, just a group of guys. We'd always go out to eat on Fridays to Bluebird or something like that. Or every Monday the offensive line goes out to eat, and then Thursdays we have O-line dinners too. You got to get together and get close, and I think that's kind of all where it comes from. And you just want to be around each other. There was always this point when I first got to the O-line, fake it till you make it. Sometimes you wouldn't want to go to O-line dinner. I know I didn't. Right, I was close to the D-lineman, so I was splitting time. But you got to fake it till you make it. Go to O-line dinner, spend time with them, and those are some of the best memories I've had. Is just O-line dinners, spending time with those guys. The trips in the summers. Eventually, you just want to be, a part of that group, and you buy in. And I think everybody's bought in.
Was Nebraska on the radar as a kid? From Council Bluffs?
Yeah, I always hoped they would offer coming up, and there was a few visits, but they said I was too small to play there. So it is what it is. I'm beyond grateful they said that because I got to end up here, and they offered actually after I committed here, so that was kind of interesting. The day after I committed here. But yeah, it was an interesting thing for sure.
Yeah, is that a chip on the shoulder still 6 years later?
I think it was back then.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they said I wasn't good enough to play there, and I got to come here and play for Coach Ferentz. I wouldn't have it any other way. I think the past 10 seasons we won nine of the games. So if you want to win football games, come here, and whatever happens there, happens there.
Were you out there for the handshake last year?
I was. Yeah.
What was could you even process it at that point?
Yeah, I was like, what's going on here? Never been a part of that. It was interesting. I don't know why it happened. They made that decision. We made ours that game, and we'll live with the outcome of that game last year. But that's last year. I'm sure it won't happen again. But you never know.
Yeah. What is playing in Memorial Stadium like? You were there in 23.
It's probably my favorite away stadium, honestly. It's gigantic. The fans, it's always packed. It's a lot of fun, and this is my first time playing there. A couple of years ago I had the high ankle sprain, so I didn't get to play there, which sucks. So finally I get to play in Memorial Stadium, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a hostile environment, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, quite the journey for Logan Jones, who was looking to be the fifth guy to win the Outland. Calvin Jones was the name I was blanking on there.
Ah, nice.
Granted, it was 1955. I wasn't around yet. None of us were, but I remembered Alex Karras, Robert Gallery, and Brandon Scherf. And, boy, listen, recruiting's a crapshoot, right? But imagine telling Logan Jones back in 2019, or whenever it was, yeah, you're too small to play in Nebraska. And then you get to line up. And, again, first time he gets to play Memorial Stadium. Was banged up in 23, and I'm pretty sure he's missed the last couple bowl games. So, again, boy, for a kid who's going to make his 50th start on the offensive line on Friday, you just hope for every good thing for Logan Jones, again, who's one of those guys wearing the wedding ring now, and another guy wearing a wedding ring was his best man, and just the bonds he's made and the impact he's brought. And, again, I think it was the second or third game that he got to be a captain for. I think it would have been the third game that he lines up across Nebraska and doesn't get his hand shook. It would have been, it would have been his first home game as a captain at Iowa.
That's funny.
And that, so glad he shared a little insight on that. There were a lot of questions about the handshakes and all that kind of stuff because it is a rivalry week after all.
Yeah, I honestly didn't realize he was from Council Bluffs, and if
Lewis Central.
Yeah, and I didn't know that story that Nebraska, he was hoping for an offer. It's already got Nebraska fans riled up on Twitter. Someone's
sure
like,
it does.
what he leaves out, this one guy, what he leaves out is that he was, coming in as a D tackle. and he is at 6'3", 255. But he came into Iowa as a D tackle too. He just switched during his first year.
Yeah.
So I think that's a little silly, but that and the cold open shot we ran at the top, I'm sure we'll get Nebraska fans fired up.
There was a lot of listen, I mean, it's rivalry week, right? You grab onto anything and everything.
It's
and
a little shocking though that Iowa would come out and put, even if I think it's benign, but the bulletin board material up there.
Yeah, I mean but it is. It's pretty tame, all things considered.
I mean, all bulletin board material in this day in college football is pretty tame. Like what Oregon was using, like what Phil said about them being well funded, which they 100% are because they get funded by frickin' Nike, and they're taking that as an insult. All of it's tame, but at the same time, usually Iowa players are just don't say anything, But this is close to his hometown.
Yeah,
Council Bluffs is, right an hour away from Lincoln, so. You see that little personal connection, especially too with the shaking the hands thing last year.
Yeah, and Kirk, pointed out in his presser on Tuesday that, before Hayden got to town, Hayden Fry, not Hayden Large, before Hayden Fry got to town, Western Iowa was basically Husker country. A lot of it, like Omaha World Herald, that was their newspaper out there. That's where you're getting all your news. And it wasn't until Hayden got here, really started recruiting out that way in the Rock Rapids of the world, the Council Bluffs of the world, that there's a little more black and gold out that way now. But that's when I even asked Lutmer about his recruitment or just growing up, and it's like, if you're west of Des Moines, I just assume there's a lot of Husker fans out there. Maybe some Jayhawks down by Kansas, maybe some Mizzou fans. Obviously, you got some Minnesota, like Lut said he grew up as. It's just Western Iowa is a different beast. We're not even used to it. Yeah.
And I'm sure too, at least in my neck of the, I'm Fort Dodge, so west of Des Moines, but it's a little north. There were a lot of Cyclone fans too. I think it was half the town was Cyclones, half the town was Hawkeyes. Not too many Minnesota fans there, but I think since maybe the last 15, maybe 20 years, I'd say Iowa State fans are growing too there in the central/western part of the state. Ever since Nebraska kind of took a step backwards from their place in college football, blue bloodish, program. Last 15, 20 years since they took a step down. So I'd say it's kind of a hodgepodge of fans in central western Iowa.
Yeah, it's a bit of a melting pot, kind of like Iowa with pro sports in general. Everybody's a fan of a little bit of everything. Well, there could be a little bit of everything this weekend weather-wise. Rebecca Copeman joining us with an interesting look at what could be coming Friday in Lincoln.
Hey there, guys. We know that this time of the year for the Black Friday game, it can always be a little bit of a toss-up weather-wise, and unfortunately, I don't have the best news. It's going to be pretty cold, kind of regardless of how the weather conditions exactly end up, but we are going to have some cold conditions, temperatures starting off in the 20s and below the freezing mark, and by the time the game starts, temperatures are maybe creeping up close to freezing. It's going to be breezy and staying cloudy, and then by the time we get to the second half of the game, toward the end of the game, might be a little bit of snow starting to move in as well, and just would prepare you to stay bundled up and bring all the warm weather gear, and also just to keep an eye on the forecast if you are going to be traveling from the game on Friday or Saturdays. We're watching that chance for snow, but going to be a cold one. Make sure that you stay bundled up.
I'll bundle up for sure. It's not going to be as cold as last year at Iowa State.
Or the year before.
That's right up there as 2024 at Kinnick, right up there with 08 at Kinnick. More wind back in 08 against Penn State as the coldest.
I didn't bring a winter coat to that one.
The 08 Penn State one. Mm-hmm. That's how I was too, and I was on the sideline for ESPN as a stringer, and there's a picture.
Dumb college kids.
Yep. Picture in the Press Citizen. I'm right on the line of scrimmage as Dan Murray hits his kick, and I'm in lucky jeans and a North Face, because again it was 2008. That was the style of the time, and I don't think I had any layers on under. And I remember just being miserable.
Well, if you remember that game too, it was a green out for Sean Green.
Sean Green, yep.
So I had to buy a green sweatshirt, and then I put a Hawkeye shirt over it, so I didn't want to bring my coat. And then I got there, and I was like, yeah, I should have brought a coat.
You were like a kid on Halloween. I can't wear a coat over my costume. What are you talking about?
We talked about leaving at halftime, and we almost did, but I'm glad I stayed.
That's an all-timer. It's still, last year I don't think was the coldest game at Kinnick history. I think that's still 2013 against Michigan.
Yeah.
That was a
rough game.
That looked cold. It was good for Iowa. They won.
I mean, a rough to be there game, not a rough result.
Yeah. That was a good one. Iowa winning against Michigan. I think Jake Ryan though had a pick 6 off Jake Rudock, maybe first play or for opening drive, something like that. That was somehow 12 years ago. That's a little crazy. All right, let's check out our picks for the week. Again, we don't need to discuss records as we've gotten here so far. That's unnecessary, and I won't hear about it. We can't live in the past, can we? Let's start with the game. This is a 11 a.m. kick on Fox on Saturday. Ohio State at Michigan. The Buckeyes, the number 1 team in the country. Michigan is your number 15 team in the new college football playoff rankings. The Buckeyes are a 9.5-point favorite, despite not having beat the Wolverines these last few years. Can the Maize and Blue keep it close against the team that has been as good as anybody all season long?
Owen left for us for the holidays, but he did send me his pick, so he got Michigan covering. Does Ryan Day get fired if they lose this game? A year after winning a national title, I don't think that's the case. I think Ohio State, this is the year that they put together. Don't care that it's on the road. They even were load managing their players last week against Rutgers. Wait, they played Rutgers, right? Is that how they played?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to go Ohio State to cover.
Yeah, if Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate are out there saying he's got one more shot to prove he needs to be in New York as a Heisman finalist, I think Bryce Underwood's come a long way from where he was at the beginning of the year. I still think Ohio State's just a unit. Even going into Ann Arbor, I think they can win by 10, so I'll take Ohio State to cover. But this could be like a 24-14 game or something like that. It's the game. It's going to be a blast. One of the oldest rivalries in college football. We stay in the Big Ten West. Wisconsin at Minnesota. Wisconsin's looked a little bit better as of late. Minnesota missed a late field goal at Wrigley Field against Northwestern. They come in 6-5, trying to improve their bowl record. They were a 1.5 favorite over Bucky. Can Minnesota bring Paul Bunyan's axe and keep it in the Twin Cities?
I say no. You said Wisconsin looks a lot better the past few weeks. Obviously, they played in Indiana 2 weeks ago, and
they got a quarterback now.
Yeah, they do. And who was it? Dupree is at the running back. He had a game last week. 2 ranked wins in the last 3 weeks. That's crazy. I'll go with Wisconsin. They're rolling. They must love Luke Fickell, because after they announced, they were sticking with him, they've been playing for him. So I'll go with Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's I'm just happy this rivalry is a rivalry again. I've talked about it a few times on the pod that for 20 years Minnesota couldn't beat Wisconsin, and now under PJ Fleck it's been more of a 500 rivalry. It's at home, so I'm going to take the Gophers to win, but Wisconsin has been really, really impressive. It's a big senior class going out for the Gophers too. Some guys that have played a lot of football for them over the years. It's going to be a tough one. A lot of youth also in some of those spots across the Gopher lineup, but I'm going to take them to get the win, to go to, I believe it would be 7-5 then under Coach Fleck in 2025. An interesting one, speaking of bowls, out in Piscataway, Penn State at Rutgers, both teams 5-6. Winner goes to a bowl game. Penn State coming a long way. They are 13.5-point favorites against the Scarlet Knights.
Owen has Rutgers covering. I just think with the way Penn State's playing these past few weeks too, I'm going to go with Penn State. I think they make the bowl game and cover this points. I don't have too much faith in Rutgers, especially their defense.
Yeah, that's my my take on it too. Rutgers is one of the worst defenses in the country. They gave up almost 7.5 yards a play.
That's bad.
That's I'm checking my notes. That is bad. In fact, it's the
double-checking.
It's the worst in the country by almost 1/4 of a yard over Air Force. They are one of only 2 teams giving up more than 7 yards a play this season. So that's a big chunk. So I'm going to take Penn State to win. Penn State looks terrific. Give Terry Smith a damn job. I'm going to keep yelling it.
2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row. But I've cussed on the pod very, very mildly. It's a family podcast here. Sorry for everybody in the car driving to Grandma's house for dinner. And then we turn back to Black Friday, 11 a.m. kick on CBS 2, Iowa at Nebraska. The Hawkeyes are a 6.5-point favorite in Lincoln. Can the Hawks win it by a tud at Memorial Stadium?
That's a tricky one. You know, Iowa, we mentioned the 9-1, 10-15 since Nebraska joined the Big Ten. But a lot of these times, these games are like one-score games. They're within 7 points. So I think Iowa has a very good shot at winning the game. But I'll take Nebraska to cover just because, you know, I think it's going to be one of those games again.
Yeah, this does feel like a bit of a trap spread, knowing just how close it can be.
Both teams didn't play well last week.
Yeah.
Iowa got the win. Nebraska didn't. But
Who bounces back better, Iowa or Nebraska? I'm going to take the Hawks by a touchdown. I think they're going to cover just by a bit. Wouldn't be shocked if Caden pulled something magic off again. And I wouldn't be
That'd be
shocked,
awesome.
Again, if Kamari can get a long one. Again, super due. I think the offensive line is going to be a little more healthy. If you can get Hayden Large back in there, that's massive. So we'll take the Hawks to go to 10-1 in the last 11 against Nebraska and move to 8-4 ahead of the Bulls. Again, I got to take some swings because, as you see on the total record, your boy needs some dubs. So we'll see what happens there across those four and across the rest. There's some great. It's final week of the regular season. There's so many great matchups. You got Illinois Northwestern. That could be a really, really fun one. Northwestern with a chance to get a 7th win under David Braun. You've got UCLA and USC, a time-honored Big Ten tradition.
One of the best uniform games in college football.
I love it, yeah.
I wish Iowa, when they played USC, would have worn black. I think I would pop off the screen. But, you know.
I do think that'd be a fun thing if you could get some.
Iowa, Nebraska, it'd be sweet.
Some rivals would agree to both wear home colors. I think that'd be some good, clean fun. I'm looking up there's some great Big Ten games here. Washington's got a
Washington, Oregon. I was kind of surprised we didn't have that on the pick because, I
thought about it, yeah.
That's a win and you're in for Oregon.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. I mean, Oregon's got that great rush defense. They showed off against the other week against USC, how good that rush defense is. But Damon Williams, man, just a video game. You got Jonah Coleman and Denzel Boston too. That's going to be an interesting game as well. Maryland, Michigan State, kind of interesting as well.
Why aren't these games flipped? Penn State and Michigan State play for a trophy, and Maryland and Rutgers are the two East Coast teams. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of weird. They're not playing each other, but oh well.
New look Big Ten. They're still figuring it out. And, of course, you got Indiana and Purdue. I know Purdue is at the bottom. Indiana is at the top. But one more chance for Fernando Mendoza. You talked about saying maybe proving his Heisman worth. And Mendoza with one more shot to pile up some stats in the battle for the Oaken bucket there. So we will be back Saturday sometime getting you recapped everything from Lincoln. Please have a very safe, healthy, and happy Thanksgiving wherever you're celebrating, however you're celebrating. And get those Black Friday deals, guys. TVs are real cheap. Go find your coupons and get your big stuff for the holiday season. We'll be back here Saturday. Thanks to Erica for steering the ship. For Mike, I'm Mitch. See you next time on Eye on the Hawks.
At DePaco Credit Union, we value your health and happiness as much as your financial well-being. We encourage the volunteer spirit by providing DePaco employees with the tools and resources to help grow our communities and support the causes that matter to us. We believe that giving back not only strengthens the places we call home, but also enhances our overall well-being. Well-being is the key to a life worth loving. So when you think about yours, remember that DePaco can help you be well.